I'm live. I'm reading out of Joan Grant's Scarlet Feather. Joan Grant lived from 1907 till 1989, and she was a seer. She used to write books from her own far memories. It might be a little bit loud. I really like this album, but I don't want her to disturb the reading. So, she's dead, but her books are very much alive. This book is about Piyannah and Raki. They're born as outcasts into an American Indian tribe many thousands of years ago, somewhere in the West. And they are outcasts only because Piyannah's mother, who raises them both, is strong enough to defy tribal customs and the chief. Unfortunately, her mother dies, and the two children must integrate into the tribe of Piyannah's father, Nakachik, the tribe of the two trees. But they want to change customs. They want to rule a tribe together. Now, we are already at the, I don't know, I've done 21 readings, I think. We are now at the chapter which is entitled Feathered Council, because there is a meeting of the tribes. Every 7 years, the 30 tribes meet. And basically, the successors are announced for the chiefs who are of more advanced age. So we've had the first part, always very philosophical, very good wisdom here, but really hard living, I have to say. Now, where did I finish it? Oh yeah, Raki had been, Piyannah had been insulted. And now she has to fight for her honor. Piyannah, you had better not provoke insults unless you want them to be avenged. This is what Raki said. The next morning, Raki said that until the chiefs decided what form of contest between me and the yellow skin was to take place, I was not to enter for any of the other contests, in case I strained a muscle and so was at a disadvantage. When I protested it was unfair to deprive me of this chance of proving that a squaw could be equal of a man in many things, he said, You will have every opportunity to prove that against Cha. It is better that he should continue to think you're an unworthy opponent, for overconfidence is nearly as dangerous as a companion as fear. Let him continue to drink mead and feast. Let him boast of the humiliation he will give to the arrogant squaw, and then there will be more words to choke him. So I had to be content to watch Raki, and it was a rich contentment. In the wrestling bouts he was drawn first against one of the leaping waters, then against braves from 2 of the northern tribes. Thereafter he was looked at with added respect by those who had been too stupid to recognize his quality before. A broken leg, a twisted shoulder, and a dislocated wrist are valuable as bear claws when they belong to your opponent. I should have liked to join in fighting arrows at the targets, especially when I saw that Takchaki's skills was less than mine. I hoped that he noticed Raki got 7 arrows at 200 paces into the painted deer, which was no larger than a man's hand, while he got only 3. But they were in different groups, so it was unlikely that Yellowskin realized he had been outmatched by one of us. Watching contests became very monotonous after the first 2 days. All the trained runners were so swift that the extra pace of the winner made little difference except to his friends. One wrestling bout is very like another, unless you have an urgent reason for minding who wins. Watching Raki was a pride and an agony, and it was a relief when Dorok, Gorky and Takini all won their bouts. Gorky suffered the only injury, a badly sprained thumb against one of the leaping waters, which prevented his taking any further part in the contest of arrows. I was surprised to see that so many different types of slings were used. Some tribes, instead of using any stone of a convenient size, had brought special ones with them, and other stones had a hole bored through them so that they could be carried on a thong. The contest of slings took place beyond the river, where there was a tract of marshy ground frequented by numerous wildfowls. 2 men from each tribe took up position near the riverbank, the lots having been drawn to decide the other of their stands. Squaws, who had been sent out early in the morning to hide in the reeds until they were given a signal, walked slowly in line towards the hunters, driving the birds in front of them. The highest score was 14, and neither of our men was in the first 3. I was glad that Raki had not entered. For this travesty of the art of hunter, we had been taught that a man should kill his game instantly and without bringing it to fear, and the sight of this cloud of birds being driven blindly towards death disgusted us both. Often the kill was slovenly. A bird with a broken leg would escape to die slowly of starvation. Another with the wing down would glide helplessly and then try to run into the shelter of the reeds. Every night the Feather Council assembled the chiefs together with the elders to settle the inter-tribal disputes which 2 chiefs had not been able to decide between themselves. The 2 trees had no petition to make, so there was not even the interest of trying to forecast what kind of decision we might expect. The elders were slow and deliberate of speech. Their voices, devoid of any emotion, droned on until several times Raki had to prod me to stop falling asleep. Endless arguments and counter-arguments as to the exact boundaries between 2 hunting grounds, whether a hunter had followed a deer on the land of a neighboring tribe without recognizing the landmarks, or had he deliberately failed to offer the customary haunch to the chief on whose land he had made a kill. Was the deer wounded, and had the hunter followed it only to fulfill his obligations to a quarry? Was it more than 5 years old? How many deer had been killed in that season? Was the tribe in urgent need of meat? So many words for so trivial a thing as a haunch of venison. When I remarked on this to Nakachik, he told me that before the law was passed, which made it necessary for all disputes that could not otherwise be settled to be referred to the council, great battles had been fought for things no more important than this. The following night they discussed a certain tribe in the southwest who had recently been afflicted with a mysterious sickness which had caused more than half of their numbers to die. They had sent a spokesman to ask that their hunting ground should be reduced, and that in exchange they should be given grain and dried meat to save them from starving during the oncoming winter. This was granted, and then began seemingly endless discussions as to the exact limit of the new boundaries, which part should be taken by each of the 3 chiefs who held the adjoining lands, whether they should give grain for 3 harvests, or would 2 years give the diminished tribe time to become secure through their own sowing. The only time a squaw was mentioned was when one had been carried off by a naked forehead who belonged to another tribe. The chief of the tribe to whom the squaw belonged had received a scalp of the naked forehead as a token that the incident was regretted, but he demanded further compensation. Eventually it was agreed that this claim was just, and it was settled at 6 doe skin and 40 arrows. No one bothered to state what had happened to the squaw. Nakachik told me that in the time of the grandfathers, before the 30 tribe had agreed to abide by these laws, only matters of far greater importance was brought to the council. Then, as now, a tribe who had suffered severely from an outlawed tribe might appeal for help, when a number of braves considered necessary would be sent by the other tribes to bring vengeance. As the power of the 30 tribes became respected, the outlaws diminished. So now the most important work of the council was the allocating of scarlet feathers. These were given only at the gathering, through a chief supported by his elders. Through a chief supported by his elders might declare any act of special courage that had been performed by one of his braves, which, after careful consideration, could be awarded this highest honor. On the 14th day, the chiefs were to declare the names of the braves who wished to be allocated to an ordeal by which they could win the Scarlet. I had heard many stories of the terrible things that had been undertaken in search of this honor, and was very glad that neither Raki nor I needed such a feather to lead our tribe. I had seen the rock from which Narak had dived into darkness. Raki and I had climbed to the top of it and shuddered to think that anyone would essay that terrible plunge into so narrow a pool. This year there were 12 who claimed the right of an ordeal. The first man was allotted the ideal of the fire ants, the second to climb the cliff of death, the third to go down into a pit of rattlesnakes, his hand bound behind him, and to stay there from dawn to sunset, knowing that his only hope of escape was to remain motionless, even if they crawled over his feet. As each honor was spoken, I became increasingly grateful to the great hunters that Raki and I would never have to undergo such an ordeal. Each man stood impassive, as a totem while his sentence was spoken. Then he raised his right hand to show that he accepted it. To refuse would have been to lose the rank of brave and to become a naked forehead, or a half-brother, according to the clemency of his chief. I knew there would be little clemency for one who brought so great a dishonor to the tribe. What made these men risk a terrible death for no reason except the desire to wear a scarlet feather in their forehead thong? They were already braves, honored by their tribe. Why did they want to gorge themselves with danger? Did they doubt their courage and feel driven to prove it to themselves? Or was it love for the tribe and their traditions, so that their chief might wear their scarlet in his headdress, and they be remembered by the generations? Suddenly I heard my name spoken by the chief of the leaping waters, my name and the name of Cha. I felt Raki tense, every muscle. I was almost relieved that at last I was going to know the nature of the contest, and was too excited to wonder why it should be decided on the same night as the ordeals. I stood up as I saw Cha had done, and walked forward into the firelight. Cha and Piyannah, said the chief of the leaping waters, it has been decided by us that if you wish to attend our council in the future, you can do so only if you wear a scarlet feather. If we give the scarlet Piyannah, then Cha can no longer say that a squaw brings dishonor to our feathers. Cha could not sit with us if he had been proven weaker than a squaw. So both must undergo the ordeal, or recognize that both have attended a gathering of the tribes for the last time. This ordeal is severe, but 14 years ago it was attempted by one of my people. He paused and touched a scarlet feather in his headdress. His body died last year, but his courage lives here with me. Where the river leaves the place of the gathering, it flows underground through caverns which are said to be haunted by demons of great malice. Little is known of these caverns, or of the tunnels by which they are joined, for very few have lived to describe them. I repeat, the ordeal of the cavern of darkness is severe, but not impossible. Do you wish to accept our decision? I held up my hand and saw Cha do the same. I had done so instinctively, not daring to hesitate lest they realize I was terribly afraid. You have 2 days in which to make ready, said the leaping water. A canoe suitable for the ordeal shall be provided for each of you. The oldest chief rose to his feet to show that the council was at an end, and I tried to prepare myself to meet the horror in Raki's eyes. Wow, I wonder what she finds in these caverns. I'm wishing all a lovely Thursday, the 16th of March 2023.